Israeli airstrikes in Yemen have killed at least 9 people. The Houthi group says multiple journalists and civilian bystanders are among those killed in Sanaa. The district was al-Jawf. It was also targeted. More than 100 people have been injured. The Israeli defense minister says the army struck what it calls Houthi military camps and a media department. It comes 2 weeks after an Israeli strike killed the group's prime minister. Well, joining us now on set is Geist Pinfold. He is a lecturer in international security at King's College London. We were on earlier talking about this being a distraction in a way, but really, how much of a distraction could it possibly be?
It's as much as a distraction as Israel can manage right now. As I said, the US tried to bury the bad news about this strike yesterday and the fact that it doesn't seem to have achieved its goals with a press conference where they were talking about anything but this. The Israelis are burying bad news in the way that they bury bad news, through military strikes and kinetic military action. Now, there's been all sorts of triumphant rhetoric from Israel after this most recent strike, saying this is the longest that Israeli jets have ever flown to strike a target in the current war, saying they struck terrorist propaganda sites and military recruitment centres and all sorts of things, anything they could really see to strike. So what this looks to me is Israel trying to distract us from the significant international pressure that's now escalating against it following these attacks on Qatar. We've heard Canada recently come out and say they're reconsidering and reevaluating their ties to Israel after the strike on Qatar. So there is real diplomatic fallout against Israel. And what's worse for Netanyahu is that despite paying those costs, he has nothing to show for it. What we know so far is that these strikes didn't seem to have killed the people whom they were supposed to kill. So this was a huge risk, a huge gamble, and thus far it's not paying off. Now,
The thing is, you've got Gaza on fire, basically. You've got Yemen being attacked. You've got this cloud over Tehran. Let's not forget that Syria's bleeding, Lebanon resisting, and now we have Doha as well. Isn't this just also just showing how Israel can do these things with relative impunity, or in total impunity, if you like? And, dare I say it, just emphasising what we know to be true, but dare to say that with all this, humanity lives under the law of the strongest.
Well, this is very much how people whom I've spoken to in Doha feel like, and I'm sure this is reflected by popular opinion in Doha, feelings of anger, feelings of anxiety, feelings of fear. But that anger is not primarily directed towards Israel, I think it's important to say. It's directed towards the US. It's a feeling that the US threw us under the bus. We have all these security guarantees. We have CENTCOM here. Qatar is not hedging its bets. It's really aligning itself with the US. But when push came to shove, the US didn't come through for them. So if I were the Qataris, I would be going to the Americans now with a long list of stuff that I want, saying it's in your interest to give this to me because of the damage that your regional prestige has taken through this diplomatic for this.
And let's not forget there's something like $1.2 trillion worth of Qatari investment going into the United States too. And that is a carrot for them to basically play ball, the US, one would have thought.
And Trump came here not very long ago, very, very triumphant tour. He said lots of very positive things about Qatar. He said lots of very positive things about Qatar's leaders. And that's what makes this strike so significant and makes it so different. Yes, Israel has launched these so-called decapitation strikes many times before, but this is not Beirut. This is not the Iranian consulate in Damascus. This is Doha. This is Qatar. This is a major US ally, and it's not even some isolated territory of a major US ally. It's in the middle of their capital city, in the middle of the day when children are coming home from school. So this is an enormous and acute sense of anxiety and fear here in Doha, and it's been precipitated not just by Israel's actions, but by the US's inactions. Not only their failure to stop the Israeli attacks, but their failure to condemn it. Those mealy-mouthed statements and equivocation, not just by Trump, but by his press secretary, those words are not going to calm anyone down, not just in Qatar, but in the Gulf and throughout the region.
So, turns out that their major ally could just be a paper tiger in some ways. But do you think, therefore, there's been a sea change, or we're going through that process where this is now taking on different dimensions, this relationship that we have between all the regional allies here in the GCC and Washington?
Yes, that's exactly what we're seeing at the moment, a recalibration. Remember, the GCC countries, they might have been thankful for the US for their help in stopping Iraq during its invasion of Kuwait, but that was a very, very long time ago, okay? You can't count on, you can't bank that forever. You need to actually stand up for your allies, and you need to help them when they are in need. And there's nothing that represents that acute sense of need, that intense need for help than an attack, not just in Doha, but an attack very, very close to CENTCOM. So this is really humiliating for the US. They've shot themselves in the foot here. I remember when the Assad regime collapsed in Syria, we said Russia has lost their prestige as a security umbrella, an alternative to the United States. Now the United States is doing it themselves, undermining themselves by failing to condemn Israel and failing to stop Israel.
Well, Rob, I'm sure we'll have lots more to talk about also later on. Rob, Geist Pinfold, lecturer in international security at King's College London.
Don't miss out, get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.